Let's talk about the power of celebration. I feel like that this is something that a lot of people are missing in their life. Whether you're someone walking with pain and challenge or someone who has already brought a lot of success into your life. Now, I have had a bunch of wins in my world of working with clients in the world of emotional processing. And I want to take you behind the scenes as to some of these little and big things that are happening. Now, I don't share a lot about what happens with my clients because the work that I do is deeply private. But also, I know that I talk a lot about how important it is to be able to celebrate and how uncomfortable it can be for some people. So there's one person who's given me permission to use their name. The others might give me permission down the track, but some of these are very early stage wins. And I also say that a lot of the time, my clients are manifesting some incredible things in their world when it comes to their health and their life, but they're also still walking with quite a bit of challenge. And I feel like sometimes we can have some shame around celebrating our successes because we see the pain that other people are experiencing, or we sometimes feel like, okay, well, yes, that's happened in my life. This is something to celebrate, but I still have all of these challenges. But this work that I do in the world of pain and pleasure is about the duality of challenge and success energy. Okay, so let me give you a sneak peek as to what has happened. There are two people who have changed their physiology through the release process, through processing their emotions using the release process. They have changed their blood work. I have another client who has fallen pregnant after 2 years, and another beautiful client that I've worked on and off with over the last handful of years who has been able to get a real success out of stepping out of her business. So, all of these people have got a foundation in processing their emotions. And for me, I just want to emphasize how important processing your emotions is, having the ability to do this and experience it, whether you are in pain or whether you want to manifest an amazing life that you desire. I often say to people that if you don't know where to start with processing your emotions. If you're in pain, process your emotions. If you desire to manifest good things in your life, process your emotions. Okay. So let me start with the first story. And actually, I have got permission to share Kylie's name. And hopefully, I'm going to get her on my Instagram, or maybe we do another quick interview where we capture her energy sharing this. But Kylie, I recorded a podcast with a little while ago. So I would recommend you go and listen to this as the backstory as to where this incredible woman has come from and what she's achieving in her life now. So this is just a sneak peek. She has lost 60 kilos on her health journey, and she is undergoing surgery to manage the excess skin. And in amongst this, she has moved to Thailand. So all pretty big moves. Okay. And before she gets each of her surgeries, because she's had quite a few now and she's recovered remarkably well, she has to get pre-op, pre-surgery blood work done to make sure that she's healthy and happy to go into the surgery. And what's interesting is that she had her blood work recently for this most recent surgery, and her platelets were low. Okay, so the normal range, I believe she said, is about 150, and she was sitting at 65. And they said, sorry, we cannot do your surgery unless your platelet count comes up. And then she shared that they wanted to do a blood transfusion to help her so she could have the surgery the following day. But she's B negative, not a very common blood type. They didn't have any blood for her. She's already mentally for the surgery, so she applied the release process. Now, to release on something like this requires a variation. If you've got my book, Healing Beyond the Diagnosis, if you're in something like my Gateway experience, you have access to the basic version, which helps you release on people. But when it comes to releasing on your body, body parts, bits and pieces that aren't functioning the way you desire, like Kylie's platelets, it requires you to build in a variation of the basic process. She did the process. She went back the next day and she had her blood work done again. And I was like, holy cow, I still have this reaction, even though I know what's possible through processing your emotions using my release process. Her platelet count doubled. Okay. So she was able to have her surgery that following day. I really feel like it is undeniable when there was a blood test done literally 24 hours or less before showing us that her platelet count was low at 65 and she had doubled it the next day. Like, how much time do you have to do and change things in that short period of time? So that's Kylie's story. As I mentioned, she has a podcast with me that I recommend you go and listen to. This is the most recent update. I'm going to try and get her to come on live to share the energy of what's happened. I've also just had another celebration. So at this stage, I'm not sharing anyone's names. But this woman has just recently started working with me at a one-to-one level. And what I love about this is that she actually said, I'm a little bit skeptical, but here I am having tried many, many other things and stuff just doesn't make sense. Now, she is on a cancer journey. There has been a reoccurrence and she is taking some medication, which is known to affect her white blood cells. Her white blood cell count was affected. It was low. Yet she really desired to go traveling for about 6 weeks to some incredible places. And it was only last week that we had our first session. And the medication she's on, she gets to take a break from it every now and then so her white blood cells can recover. But she's still on the medication at this point in time. We do our first session of a whole bunch of releases. She really felt and heard what happened in that release. And this is where I deeply trust the process, even if someone is skeptical. And I love that she shared this with me. I'm convicted enough with the results that I've seen that I just have to trust this process. And she had a blood test the next day. And she wasn't meant to find out the results for quite a few days, but I think they told her pretty much straight away. And I got the email and she's like, I did it. I'm like, you freaking did it. Her white blood cell count went up. Now, she wasn't going to be allowed to travel if her white blood cell count was down because it meant that maybe her body wasn't handling the medication. They would need to look at changing it. And so instead of traveling, she might have to work through that. However, yesterday, she went to the airport and she is off on several weeks of travel to some pretty amazing places that I would just dream of going to. And hopefully one day I will. She's leading the way. And oh, it's so funny because now this work is like really landing. She's so committed to it and she's having magic happen in other areas of her life through this process and just actually committing to this journey. Okay, I often say that the magic happens before the work even starts, and then we really amplify it. And it is just undeniable the impact that the emotional work can have. Now, I feel like some people, when they hear me talk about the emotional work, they say, I've done this, I've done so much therapy. And I just have to say, there is something about doing it in my world and utilizing this release process that I have to say, I don't even know where it's come from. Like, people say, is this a process like New German medicine, or is it like internal family systems? Is it like all these other things? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't immerse myself in that world of those processes. I know they're beneficial for some people, but this release process, I want to let you know that it's been born out of my experience of working with thousands of people. And I have to say, it's probably landed from a very intuitive place. And I questioned it once upon a time. And I thought maybe it's just me. They can get results like this for myself. But then I started to see clients get the results and more and bigger. And now I just fully surrender and trust the process myself. So those are two client wins of people changing their physiology. I do have other podcast episodes. There was one with Chanel and she changed her liver enzymes and inflammatory markers. She's got 3 autoimmune diseases. There's one from way back with a beautiful woman called Elle. She was actually my first skeptic. Go and find that episode. It's called Always the Nice Girl. She also normalized chronic vitamin D and B12 deficiency. Iron was in there, I think, as well. and she decreased her elevated liver enzymes that had been elevated for over a decade from an accident. Anyway, I'm going to way more stories than what I thought. But physiology, blood chemistry can change through this work. Okay. All right. So the other two client wins, another woman who has recently stepped into my world. It was February 2026, and she's on a fertility journey. And for 2 years, she's been trying to get pregnant. And I have asked all of these people if I can celebrate, even pre-celebrate them to just add to the juju of what they're going to manifest. I'm so grateful for your permission. But she had been trying for a couple of years to get pregnant. And when I started working with her, she'd already been working with a acupuncturist. She calls her a celebrity acupuncturist. She was based in California, and she'd been working with her for about 9 months. And she was seeing her 3 times a week and traveling an hour each way. So 9 hours of her week was to this journey of acupuncture. Now, there are so many things that I want to share about this story, but I'm just going to keep it short because this woman comes from a very logical structured world, but has this beautiful feminine and creative aspect to her, just so open to the coaching. And I say to people that through the release process, you will realize what's for you and what's not for you. It's not for me to say. I mean, sometimes I can have a strong feeling whether or not someone would be better off doing something or not doing something, but I want the answers to come from within because ultimately they are all within us. Anyway, during release, she actually decided this acupuncturist is not for me. She realized this through all the releases. So, okay. Now she has stepped into the phase of my work that comes after emotional processing. It's my embody group. And I love that she did because I could really see that this was for her to step into the vision, the desire, the manifestation space. And there have been so many babies conceived and born through the release process. I call them release babies, and I haven't even celebrated them. But anyway, there's been some stuff changing and moving in the background, and she has fallen pregnant, and she got to celebrate this with our group. And that's what I started this podcast about is celebration energy. And I just love that she has this group to celebrate with because so often we don't talk and share about pregnancy until people hit the 12-week mark or the 16-week mark because all of this risk. But you know what? She's pregnant and she's never received a positive test before. And she's actually just sent me the image of the ultrasound. So she is pregnant. And that's what we've got to celebrate. And she's like, I'm so full of joy that nothing else matters. And she's just shared some really beautiful insights that I feel like are messages. I know messages for everyone, for you listening. I know there've been really powerful messages for people in the group, even though the rest aren't on a fertility journey, right? And she said, if I had have known that it was going to take 2 years to get pregnant, if I had have known, how would I have navigated this journey differently? Okay. And I probably need to dedicate a whole podcast to this to give you some insights. Now, maybe one day she'll come on the podcast, but not everyone that I would love to get on the podcast is ready to get on the podcast. So I said, can I share this instead on your behalf? Plus, yes, it's early stages and we will walk through anything together. Okay, so just celebrating this. And I said, you know what? You're so full of joy. If you want to post in our group every single day into the Embody group, like let us soak up the overflow. Show us what's possible because we know that you've been through so much challenge. We know you have tried so many things, and this is just so incredible. So, she's fallen pregnant after 2 years. She's never experienced a positive pregnancy, the ultrasound, hearing the heartbeat. Like it's all so freaking wild. So that's happening in my world. And actually, you know, just on the trend of physiology, that she was getting some pretty definitive signs of how the release process and processing her emotions was actually changing hormonal levels, which was regularly testing. So very cool. So this is just Yeah, she started working with me in February at the release course level, and then she said yes to the next stage. And we're only 2 and a bit months into the second phase, the manifestation, the vision, and the desire piece. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that. And then the fourth story, I actually have so many other stories, but not ready to share them just yet. But this is a client that I've worked with at a one-to-one level. Um, a couple of years ago through some health issues, which she recovered amazingly from. And we worked on a relationship, and she attracted her ideal partner. And we also navigated some business changes as well. She's an owner of a very successful business, has a number of employees and team members that she manages as well. And as we moved through the pain of the health issues and resolving that, naturally what happens is people's world opens up, their view of their life and everything that's going on in their life. We don't just focus on health. And so this journey of the pain and the health issues also was indicating to her that she needed to work on some communication in her business. And she had these other ideas or a hobby business that she really wanted to pursue, but she needed to create space and time. And so a couple of years ago, I helped her with her communication to step back from her business to create more space and time. And then she's continued to manifest incredible things in her life, not receiving any coaching from me. And I love that earlier this year, so start of 2026, she reached out and she said, I think I'm ready for more coaching. I've decided that I actually just want to step fully out of this business now. My other hobby business has grown. I'm excited about that. And I can totally relate to this as someone who has owned what I would say was a successful clinic. I had a couple of clinics, I had team members, and during the pandemic, I pivoted into the online space, not out of desire, honestly out of fear, but here I still am. And I just remember the energy in my business. Things were showing me that my energy wasn't there. I couldn't attract practitioners, couldn't hire them. And I remember thinking, I need to sell this business baby before it dies in the ass and I've got nothing to sell. And the reason that I asked this woman if I could share her story is because I've got a few other people in my world, and maybe for you listening, you're considering letting go of something that you realize your energy is not there. So I said, I really want to share this because you've worked with me for so long. You come back to the simple foundational pieces, and this is what you've created, this is what you create, and this is what you are creating. And I know there's a few other people in my world that need to hear this right now. And so I say that she is just such an amazing representation of what happens when you have this solid foundation in the ability to process your emotions, your past, and the present day challenges that come up. Because I always say that if you're manifesting a life that you desire, it is not unusual to be confronted by challenges that are here to ask you, are you really ready to hold the success energy that you desire? So, it's nothing new. It's nothing flashy. I say it's stupidly freaking simple, but you got to be consistent with the work, right? And so she has shown me that by stepping into what I call the fifth pillar of the cycle of growth and evolution, the fifth pillar of this, if you've got my book, Healing Beyond the Diagnosis, and it's in chapter 1. The fifth pillar is about leadership and communication. And honestly, that's what I feel like I help this amazing woman a lot with, but also we have amazing celebrations, okay? Because this is what the podcast is about, the ability to celebrate before it's even come to fruition. And, I know the feeling as well, like the hesitation, the thoughts of like, what's going to happen when I say that I want to step out or when I want to sell this business. Now, I won't go into complete details, but a couple of years ago, I thought, what if you don't need to sell it completely? What if you can stay in it, but you actually just don't need to operate in this business in this way? And basically, that is what has come to fruition. Now, this podcast episode is born out of a very quick 5-minute reel that I recorded yesterday, and I mentioned these. And yesterday, when I recorded it, I was in pre-celebration mode because this transaction had not gone through. Basically, she wrote the email, and I help people with the communication of What can you add to it to get the desired outcome? And within a couple of days, she had a response. And even though the logical mind and contracts say that this is not possible, I say when you lead from desire and people know how you feel, and they know your vision, they want to make it happen for you. And so she sent the email within 2 days, had a proposal. This is how this process can happen. We're okay with it. And it happened quickly. I say that when you do the emotional work, you create space, you create capacity, and you create capacity to keep up with the speed and the momentum at which things can move. Most of the time, I feel like we get in our own way and we slow down the process. And so she was so happy. She was so happy with the proposal. And what was really interesting is she said, I feel really good about this. But then, there's a few things, and it involved meeting up with the accountant. And we were having discussions about this that actually, you know what? The strategic and practical thing would be to meet up with the accountant. And I still recommend you do that, but just know the decision's already made. You're happy with this. And so through the process, through the communication, she decided to just ask for a little bit more on what they were going to deliver, money wise. And so I said, okay, well, what's your intention behind this? That's really important. What's your intention? I'm all for it. And you got to be willing to accept a no. Okay. But you will never know if you don't ask. And what I love about this is that she actually said to me, well, if I don't ask, then I won't know. And she's in a place where she can handle a no. But again, another level of communication. Okay. How would this feel? And I have been sharing with her, it's like, you know what, you're so good with all of this work. Sometimes, yeah, you just need a little bit of a reminder, like, what can you process your emotions around here? What's calling you to be processed? What are the commitments you've got to honor? What's the action you've got to take? Because the universe rewards action. And I love that within a day, within a couple of days, she's doing the thing that I can see that she knows that she's got to do. And very quickly, within 24 or 48 hours, she is getting a response, which is like, holy cow, they said yes, they said yes. So she asked for a little bit extra, and I got a message this morning saying they agreed to it. They have agreed to the figure. And so she feels even better. I'm always asking people, how do you feel? And of course, there's a new range of emotions going through, okay, I'm actually letting go of this thing. Um, she actually gets to keep a bit of a pie in the business, which is incredible because she has built it to be what it is. But I'm just so excited for the space that's going to open up for her to move into the thing that she is just so, so passionate about. And for us to go on the journey of coaching the new emotions of letting go of this business and stepping into this new one on another level, because everything is just on another level. So these are my celebrations that I want to share the energy of with you. And really the power of having people to celebrate with, groups to celebrate with, and to not have the guilt of celebration. So I say to people that there is a time when you process and experience the emotions from your past through the release process. And there is a time where you're going to be moving through and experiencing emotions in the moment. So sometimes it is feeling guilty that you actually get to celebrate this. But any of these people, because I attract people who have done all of the things and walked so many challenges, all of these people will tell you, man, this celebration comes with so much history. And those are the tougher bits to reveal or share about on a podcast because they're often deeply personal experiences. Sometimes they involve other people, which I don't feel is appropriate to talk about. But if you're in my world, like if you come into something like the release program and the next one's coming up in August, and you can actually join it early. But if you are in these groups, you get privy to the journey. You get to see what really happens. And I attract amazing people into my world. And sometimes we take the next step into the journey of manifestation, vision, and desire. But I only work with people at that level if they know how to deal with and work through and process and feel their emotions. Then you get to hear all the juicy behind the scenes of like, holy cow. So These are people that I've been hearing myself say, I'll walk through fire with you. I know the challenges of this journey and I know the celebrations if you can stay plugged in. And so I hope that you are able to find a moment to celebrate with a friend or maybe on your social media or send me a message and celebrate something. I do get messages from people that haven't actually worked with me, but I know that you're following along on social media. I absolutely love it. Some of you message me or respond to emails about the podcasts. I do read them. I absolutely love them. Okay, so reach out to me and tell me, what are you celebrating? See if you can go the next level, celebrate with a friend. I hope you have beautiful friends in your life that you can celebrate with. If not, maybe it's a sign that you can process your emotions and create space to receive these people and attract them into your life. And maybe just consider, especially if you're someone who has worked with me before, is it that you got to come into one of my spaces in my world and a group where you can stretch yourself to feel the safety of celebration and feel the power of it. Because some of these people are in the early stages of working with me. Some of them have worked with me for a long time. Actually, Kylie's story, she isn't actively working with me, but she's in my world. And she just credits so much of this journey to processing emotions, but I credit her for actually applying it, actually remembering to doing it and keeping it so simple. That's why she's creating amazing recovery with all of these surgeries. So yeah, maybe just consider, is it maybe you've tried other spaces, but they're not quite like these. My spaces are always evolving. Is celebration. Celebration is something that a lot of people are missing, whether you're walking with pain and challenge or you're someone already successful. Okay. So I'll pop some links in the show notes for my release program. It's my signature program where I teach you the release process. You learn it, you integrate it, you do the work, and you watch the magic unfold. So check it out. There's loads of written testimonials there. And I love people to be drawn into my work off a feeling. I know a lot of you have been in my world for a long, 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 long time. And I trust that you will take a step when you are ready. All right. Bye for now. And love sharing these celebrations with you all.